What do you do when someone is knocking on your door? Great knocking sound, right? What? Anyway, don't destroy this intro.
No, don't.
I was going for a dramatic intro. Don't ruin it. Someone knocks on your door and he says, I can make you 300,000 euros. What do you do? Now, we're going to dive into this because this is something that actually happened with Great. But before, we are going to have to deliver some sad news because we lost an employee and we are going to talk about how that is affecting our company. And hey, if you're new here, I'm here with the founder of Great.com, Eric Bergman. And Eric is a high-intensity kind of entrepreneur. He created the company Catena Media that he has taken public, and he made about 50 million euros from that. And now he's founding Great, a company that will give away 100% of his profits to charity. Eric, buddy, how are you today?
I'm very easily annoyed today. Yeah, so as just before this recording, we played around with audio settings. And I think Emil put it in a good way. He said that if Eric ever becomes evil, super genius superhero, his kryptonite will be, well, failing technology. So just give him a broken modem and he will just cry. And that's how I'm feeling right now.
He will start to melt from the inside. Yes.
Yes. So thank you for saying that publicly to the entire world so that when I become an evil super genius, people will know how to destroy me.
Well, we should know how to keep our superhumans in check, right?
Yeah. Other than that, my soul is in a happy place. All in all, I'm still happy. I'm just easily annoyed today. So thank you for having me. Emil, my beloved friend since many, many years, is the host of this podcast, and he was also the first person to join me on this crazy venture of Great. So how are you today?
When someone is annoyed, I go into my cuddly bear, playful energy. And I just want to spread some good vibes here. So that is what I've been doing during the warm-up. I feel like a little bit extra silly. And hey, what this podcast is really about, it's called Becoming Great. And we want to inspire entrepreneurs that want to make the world a better place through building companies and through personal development. So let's dive into it. And what happened this month is that our employee, Frederick, has left the Great ship. And that is sad to me because I will always... It sounds like he's dead, but he's not. But I will always remember Frederick as this...
Important really, detail.
like this warm, present, calm, like a young Eckhart Tolle kind of energy. It's like always happy, spreading good vibes. Having a brain that is... I feel like he's always been finding questions that has been a bit different than questions most people ask, and it makes me think in a different way about myself. Warm smile, a little bit of a ladies' man, maybe. That's how I remember Frederick. How do you think of him?
Well, for context, Eckhart Tolle is this fuzzy bear spiritual teacher on YouTube. For those listening don't know that. And yeah, I can see that. A young Eckhart Tolle with a German accent and yeah. Well, Fredrik to me is, and I'm going to go with is, because he is still alive. He's just moved on for another project. And he is a curious and passionate guy who comes out with a lot of energy. He is childish, I would say, in the good sense of the word. Probably a little bit in the annoying sense sometimes as well, but mainly in the good sense of the like playful in the same way as you're saying there. And he's just very eager to learn. And I'm definitely gonna miss his energy in tons of different situations.
Got it. So you said he wanted to move on to a different company. Would you elaborate on what happened?
Yeah, sure. So what Fredrik joined into Great more or less by accident, like a year and a half ago, from being a close friend of mine. And he was just joining in like kind of an assistant, not really having any specific tasks, but still being around. Like this kind of like this very helpful father in a teenage football team. He's just there, he's just doing things. No one had really asked him to, but he was just very helpful. That's kind of how he ended up with Great. And he started running the podcast. He was the one hosting this, no, not hosting, producing this podcast, fixing everything, uploading it everywhere, being in all the podcast recordings, and giving a lot of valuable perspectives on how we are recording it and how he, as an outside listener, then perceived what we were saying. And I feel that we learned a lot from having him in here.
Yeah, because he was taking the role pretending that he don't know us.
Yeah.
So that was very helpful, because he could clarify all the time when we were talking about things that only you and I know, and the audience was feeling left out. That was very helpful. We did that a lot in the first episodes, especially.
Yeah, and at the same time I felt... So we didn't pay him at all in the beginning, and then he got into a bit of a tricky financial spot like a year ago, and out of nowhere, kind of, we decided to start giving him a full-time salary, even though we didn't really have a role for him, and that didn't turn out very well. And I paid him 3 months up front, and yeah, we didn't really define what his role would clearly be. I didn't set very clear guidelines for these kind of things, and it didn't really turn out well. So 3 months into that, both of us felt that, wow, this was just a really bad idea. And I felt that I hadn't really got my money's worth, and he at the time felt that he hadn't really delivered either, but in his experience he had done a lot more efforts than I experienced him to be. So this has been a bit of a torn in the side. Is that an expression?
So wait, you're saying that you had different perspectives here. You thought like you didn't feel like you set a clear role, and at the same time you would have wanted him to be able to do more work than we actually had for him. And he felt like he had done more work than you thought from your perspective.
Yeah, something like that. And just to clarify before I move on, I've already spoken with Fredrik about the fact that we wanted to talk about him in this call and my feelings regards to all of this. And he was... he was okay with that, and at the same time he was a bit nervous of how this would portray him and portray our relationship and stuff like that. And to be honest, I'm quite nervous talking about it. It's a tricky and sensitive topic. But yeah, so to simplify what happened is that I in this situation paid him to do a bunch of tasks, and part of that included learning to do other things. And after 3 months, very few of those tasks were actually done. And a lot of folks have been on learning other things. And we have had a different perspective of how important the learning was. So when he had invested a ton of hours in learning something which wasn't really what I was looking for or what Great needed at the time, it left us in a situation where I felt betrayed. I felt like this was not what we agreed upon. This is not how this was going to come out. And he felt... Well, it's hard for me to express what he felt. I think he felt judged from my perspective and felt like I hadn't given him the guidance needed. I hadn't been clear. So it wasn't fair for me to feel betrayed if I haven't clearly stated what I needed.
And I guess his intention with learning as well is that he wanted to get a better understanding of how to create the podcast so it could be better.
Yeah.
I felt like in the beginning especially, he was the one in the group that had the biggest drive to make the quality of this podcast better.
Yeah. And we never really got to where we wanted to be with this. And he ended up feeling that he wanted to keep on working with us, but do that for free moving on, because he felt like he wanted to make an effort for this. I felt that was fair. And ever since he's been involved with the podcast, but haven't really been involved with anything else. And I felt that I've had a hard time letting this go. And we had another conversation about it now.
And what do you mean with this, just to clarify?
Thank you. So this, in terms of my feeling of betrayal, feeling that he kind of tricked me into doing this, I felt that I was promised something. I paid for it, helping out a friend, because we've known each other for a long time. And that wasn't delivered. And I felt that I ended up in a tricky situation. And yeah. And he's been running another project on the side. He's been building a company with a couple of friends, and I've been very happy about that for him. I've been excited about his project, and he's been having pretty much all of his attention there, and it's been needed there. And he's been less and less present in grades. And now he opened the conversation a couple of weeks ago that he felt, okay, I want to move on and focus only on this new project. And to me, I felt that part of me felt that was a relief. Like I've been feeling that he's been heading somewhere else for a long time. I've had a hard time dealing with this financial situation. We ended up having a final talk about this that felt very, very beautiful in many ways and very tricky. It's very hard to talk about money with friends or with employees for that matter. It gets, at least for me, it gets very emotional. It gets very personal. And yeah, we ended up just having very different perspective on what actually happened. But at least it felt good to clear the air on those things before parting. And he asked me if this will affect our friendship. And I felt that I wanted to say no. Of course, we will still remain friends like nothing have happened. And at the same time, I felt in my heart that wasn't honest. I felt that this will still impact our friendship. I still feel betrayed. So I told him that. And yeah, we had a long conversation about it. It felt very beautiful, and it felt like we parted on, I want to say good terms, but kind of like bad accepting terms. It's like, okay, let's just agree to disagree of how this played out. I have a clear idea what I feel. He has a clear idea of how he feels. And it felt like a very mature breakup in a sense. Is this understandable for an outsider? Or am I just very tricky?
No, I think it's understandable for an outsider. So I know you've been thinking about this quite a bit, and you guys sat down and you had a long and very emotional talk where you both really shared how you felt. How important would you say it is to, because you invest a lot of energy in it, that is otherwise energy that you could have used building your business. Do you think this is a good approach to leadership? Or did it take too much out of you to go through this?
So I'm very happy with how Fredrik interacted with me in this conversation. I think that he dealt with everything very maturely, very honestly, and in the same way that I said that this will impact our relationship because it felt true to me, there were several situations where it felt like he stood up for his opinion and like, yeah, this is what I truly feel, where I completely disagree with him, but he took that stand anyway from a very honest place. I think that this could easily have played out with us standing screaming on each other, no one really saying what they mean and trying to manipulate, but I didn't get that feeling at all. So I did invest a lot of energy in this, but I also felt that I grew as a person. I felt that if there was one way to kind of nurture mine and Fredrik's future relationship, this was the way to do it. And I feel that if I would have gone another angle, I would just have cut it there, wouldn't really have cared, moved on. I think this would have been something grinding in the back of my head for a very long time. I could have dealt with it in another way. How would this have played out? How would that have played out? And I think that over the course of a year, that would have drained me of a lot more energy than this very intense conversations did.
Mm. And now you're also gaining a skill set to deal with these kind of situations in the future, which I would guess will come up a lot when you are running a company.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, to answer your question, I think it's a great approach to it, but it's very, very hard, and I'm definitely learning. So I'm much more happy with this approach than an approach that I would have taken 3 years ago. And I very much hope that 3 years from now, I would be able to do that conversation in a much better way, and especially at a much earlier stage. I think that was a big problem with this, that we had some deep conversations in like March, April, and then we kind of didn't for 6 months or so. And that's way too much time in between to nurture a relationship.
Mm. I feel like I want to move on to the next topic, just to be conservative of time. Do you have something you want to add on this before we move on?
I just want to say that I have a lot of respect for Fredrik after this situation. I feel it was a tough situation for the both of us. It was scary in many ways, and yeah, I felt that he dealt with it very maturely in a good way. So yeah, I'd like to say that.
Yeah. And we're gonna miss you, Fredrik, buddy. I'm sure you're listening to this.
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
Yes.
So let's move on and switch the energy a bit. You mentioned some guy knocking on a door.
Santa Claus?
Yeah.
A guy knocks on your door.
Make that knocking sound again.
I don't have any wood here. Where's all my wood?
I'm sorry, man. You're good at many things. You're amazing at many things.
Okay.
Knocking sounds you need to practice on.
Make your best knocking on wood sound right now. And don't use any wood. Cheating!
No, you made it with my mouth.
Liar!
Dunk,
Nice.
dunk, dunk. That's how I would say it.
Okay. Slightly better. Tops. Anyway, a guy's knock on your door, insert sound effect, with 300,000 euros. Well, he's saying, I can make you 300,000 euros. And this happened to Great. What happened here, Eric?
Yeah, so for about 6 months, a guy named Tobias had wanted to have meetings with me, and I've known him for a long time as well, and I just haven't got it into my calendar or prioritized it and whatnot. And then he said to me, hey, Eric, I've just quit my job, and I've done that because I want to work for Great, so now you have to take a lunch with me. And I was like, this guy doesn't cave, does he? so I went to have a lunch with him. And Well, he charmed my pants off. He said all the right things, super smart, super clever, had lots and lots of good ideas. And then he said that I think that we should go to launch Great, the casino section in Swedish, and I want to run that project.
Just a little bit of background. Why are we running a casino? Just a quick background.
So the idea, I come from the casino space, and I made a lot of money in the casino space, and I believe that the best thing that I could do for the world is to start a new casino project that makes a lot of money, but that will give everything away to the environment, because we want to fix the environment. So it's a very weird, very, very different approach to charity, I would say.
Got it. And
Got it.
Keep telling the story.
Yeah, and the intention for me has always been to let's do this in the US, because Sweden's market is so much competition, so saturated. And we've been building this in New Jersey and in Pennsylvania. And Tobias like, yeah, I want to build it in Sweden. And my first thought was like, that's a really, really bad idea. No, we're not going to do that. And then he started drawing up this plan of how to do that and the kind of fees that could be charged up front, basically meaning that in the Sweden, since Great is a known name, I'm a known name, I have a track record, he believed that we could get other casinos to pay up front for just working with us. So when in the US, where we need to chase the clients to really get them to working with us, because no one knows us, no one knows me.
And the clients is the casinos.
Yes, the clients is casinos. Yes. Nice catch. In the Sweden, they would be chasing us. And I hadn't even thought about that. And then he went to this conference and he started talking to a bunch of casinos and doing everything. He's like, coming back, it's like, I think I can easily get 300,000 euros. You want to do this? I'm like, fucking convincing guy, you're just solving everything. Yes, let's do this. So we took Tobias on board, and he's going to be launching a Great Casino in Sweden and be in charge of that project. And yeah, you just met Tobias a couple of weeks ago in Malta. What was your impression of that guy?
My impression when I met him live was I really, really liked him right from the get-go. And I think when I was the most impressed with him was in the team call we had last Monday, where it was the first time he was on. It's 6 people there, and he wasn't really going to be center of attention. But then our plans for the meeting changed. And all of a sudden we said, let's just don't put too much pressure on Tobias right now. Let's just all ask him a lot of questions. So he was put into the limelight and was bombarded by all kinds of questions by the team. And the way he responded to that with charm and confidence and storytelling and metaphors, I was really impressed. I was observing his communication skills, and I could see, yeah, I see why he's a good salesman. I see how powerful he is at convincing ideas and moving people into action. I saw how good he was at teaching, explaining concepts. I think I saw him explaining ideas about Great in a ways that was so easy to understand. I was really impressed.
Yeah, I think he did that meeting really well as well. It was exciting to see him.
He was painting up the vision for Great in a way that this is really impressive. We have been working on our communication skills to talk about Great for a long time now, but he is coming in and fuck, what's happening?
Yeah, he's in many ways he got a grander vision of Great than I do, and he's communicating it better than I do.
I think he did. It was very impressive.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So he's going to be in charge of setting up the Swedish version of the site. And it's really fun to have him on board, in the team. Tricky words.
Indeed. So what is the current progress then with the product?
So actually a lot of things have been happening lately. And we're setting up a completely new design for the casino section. So for now, the casino section looks like shit. And it's basically just been up for Google to be able to read it and start indexing it for the future. And now we're launching the new design of the site, which I'm actually very proud of, and that's going to look really good. So we're going from looking like shit to looking something I'm very proud of. And I've been involved with designing it, and I've been designing for the first time in like 5 years. So I'm very excited about that. So it feels really good. And I think that we came up with a lot of new ideas, got great feedback from the team and how we structured it. So by the time that this podcast is live, the new casino section might actually be live as well. It's not up and running yet, but hopefully it will be in the next week. So I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited about launching this site in Sweden. I'm very excited about seeing how the traffic grows. So we're still on very low levels of traffic. So last month we had about 100 visitors to the casino section. So 100 visitors we could make money from. And this month we're reaching over 200. So it's 100% increase, still very small numbers, but it's very exciting to see that trend. There's a lot of things happening with the product that I'm very excited about.
Yeah, that was a beautiful graph. I love a beautiful graph.
Yeah, for the first time, I'm feeling very confident in what's happening with the product section. I feel that we had this podcast, 3 months ago, where I spoke about disbelief in myself and in the project and these kind of things. And a lot of it related to the product. And now I'm starting to feel the opposite. I'm feeling very proud of the progress we're making and where we're heading.
That's great to hear. Now, I want to move on to the third talking point in this episode, which is that we are launching a new podcast. Is there something final you want to say about the charity product before we move there?
If you buy the charity product, mean the casino product, then the answer is no.
I'm great at words.
Charity, casino, we are making it the same thing, so yes. I understand the mix-up.
That was my intention.
Please tell me about the charity podcast.
How about you tell me about the charity product?
How about I tell you? Oh, okay, I will tell you. Okay, so we are launching this new podcast where Emil will be the host and Spirit will be the host, our man behind the curtain usually. And the intention with this is that we want to explain what charity organization does in 20 minutes or less. So if we take a complicated charity organization, we want to interview a person from that organization in a way that they can explain what they're doing very easily. Because this is something that I feel is missing in the world. A way to okay, what is this organization actually doing? What were their last successful project or first successful project? Or I think that at least when I visit a charity website or something, it's very hard to grasp the entire thing. Few manage to communicate it. So we're launching a podcast that will do this in 20 minutes or less. What are you excited about with this?
Oh boy, I'm so excited. I'm having my first podcast today, actually, with an organization that is called Latino Justice, that is working on mass incarceration in the US. Now,
mass incarceration means a lot of people in prison, right?
A lot of, African American and Latinos in
so
prison.
Justice, would you say they're working with a fairer justice system than for African American and Latino people in the US?
Yes, to simplify it, yes.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm going to be focused on is that there are big organizations that are evaluating different charity projects, and then they're ranking the most effective ones and they are giving grants to them. So what I want to be focusing on is to look at all these projects that have gotten grants for being very, very effective at making the world a better place. And then I want to explain why they are effective. I want to hear their perspective on why did you get this grant? Why did Open Philanthropy Project, for example, think that you are such a great organization? And can you explain that in a way so that anyone could understand it in less than 20 minutes? So just to be able to talk with them, simplify what they're doing, and also for me to learn and everyone else to learn about these very interesting causes. I want to learn about mass incarceration in the US. I think that's super interesting. And there could be many different topics, but that is what I will focus on. Because Great want to do charities. We want to support effective charities. So this is going to be one leg of the podcast. And Great is also going to focus on the environment. So the podcast that Spirit, my colleague, is going to do, he's going to focusing on interviewing a lot of environmental organizations that are doing various things to make our environment better. So that is why I'm very excited about this podcast. What makes you, Eric, excited about this podcast?
There's a lot of things that I'm excited about with this podcast. One thing that really made me excited were listening to Spirit's excitement the other day. So he will do the environmental aspects of this, as you mentioned. And he is a guy, in my experience, that prepares a lot. He wants to make sure that everything is done in the right boxes to start with. And then he got the option of doing a podcast the next day. Someone just replied and said, hey, okay, we can do this tomorrow. And the Spirit that I know would say, no, let's wait. I want to prepare. I want to do this and that. And he just jumped on it and said, okay, let's do it. And he had recorded the first podcast episode before we even heard about it. And when he shared, I was like, wow, man, I'm so proud of you. You're so freaking brave. Because we were planning to set up so he could practice, have another podcast just to play with a friend. And I felt so proud of him doing that. And it felt so good to feel that he is so excited about this project in general, that it feels like this is something he really wants to do and really feels passionate about. So his excitement about this really, it rubbed off on me in a very amazing way. And then I'm very excited about this podcast as a marketing tool. So now it goes into my business head. So this podcast will be a good way of getting links towards Great. And to explain it very easily, the more links you have to a site, the higher that site will rank in Google. And obviously, the higher you are in Google, the more people will find you. So if we get links towards a podcast about charity, that will still benefit our commercial side of the business that is about casino, and that will rank higher up. So I believe that this will be a great way of adding value with this podcast, interviewing these organizations and all of these things, and at the same time benefiting the side of the business that I'm very passionate about, which is Google rankings. So I think that by doing this podcast, we can firstly get links from these organizations themselves, which is really nice, from other organizations that evaluates these organizations or write about them. And I believe that this can be a very great marketing tool at the same time that we put Great on the map as an authority within charity, which has a lot to do with future visions we have for Great. So I'm excited about pretty much every angle of this project in different ways. And it feels like I've been looking for the perfect fit for you and Spirit into this Great company mix. And I think that this is the first time there is a piece of the puzzle that makes so much sense in so many ways. And I'm very excited about that.
Me too, buddy. I'm excited because a lot of these organizations don't get the attention that they deserve, I think. A reason why they're so effective is that the cause they're working on is neglected. Not enough people know about it, so they don't get enough funding. And we might really be able to do good there, either by giving them attention or inspiring people to maybe donate to them or choose to donate to these very effective organizations instead of just a random one. So there's a lot of good effects that can come out of it. And I'm looking forward to it. I think hosting is fun.
Yeah, I really like it.
And hey, our goal is to make one podcast a day. And that feels awesome.
Yeah. I have a perfect new coworker for that project, but I'm gonna tell that, maybe the next update, because you don't even know about it.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah, so let's wrap this up with one little final thing. Or you want to say anything else on the podcast?
No.
Then I'll go with one little final thing. Let's see how I'm gonna explain this. Okay, so let's imagine that you are Superman. And then your kryptonite is a malfunctional modem. Yes, I'm saying that I'm Superman. And yes, I'm saying that there are malfunctional modems. And then you find this superhero coworker guy who just fixes all the broken modems, who just solves all your problems and just makes you want to be working much harder on everything that you're doing. That's what I found. That's a very weird metaphor. I found this amazing guy named Karim. He reached out to me on Instagram, I don't know, a month ago, something like that, and say, hey, Eric, I want to work for free for you because I think you do amazing stuff. And there's actually quite a lot of people reaching out to me saying that. And usually they're just excited in the moment and don't really want to do anything. So I sent him a list with some tricky questions. And he replied so well to them, just like that. Then I sent him, okay, you can do these tasks. And he just solved them before I could even solve them. And then it's like, okay, can you put a subtitle on this video? And he came back with that really quickly. And I looked at it and was like, okay, here he did a spelling mistake. And then I checked the spelling mistakes, like, fuck, I was the one doing the spelling mistake. He's actually better than me. So he is now helping out with so many things, came out of nowhere. In only 5 days, I told him that, hey, guy, you can't work for free. I need to pay you because you're working too much, too hard, and too good. So he's now my assistant in so many things that I didn't even know that I needed/wanted help with. And it has just made me a lot more excited about Instagram in general, but also a lot of other things in Great, because I feel that he speeds up my processes so much. So I'm very excited about having Karim on the team. So yeah, this became a month where we lost one really amazing person and we got two. So all in all, it's a good month for the team.
Good month for sure. Yeah, Karim is a really awesome guy. I had a couple of calls with him, and now I'm just looking forward to talking with him. Yeah, he makes me smile. Now, it's time to wrap up, and one of the reasons we're doing this podcast is because we want to give people who are thinking about making the world a better place through entrepreneurship, we want to give them an inside look into how does startup life actually look like? Is it smooth sailing, or are you going to have super deep conversation and separating with coworkers? Are you going to have pleasant surprises? What kind of challenges is there really? Now, can you think of someone, you listening, that is into this kind of stuff, who are thinking about starting their own company, or maybe they already do? If you do, think of this person and consider sending this episode to them for inspiration. That would really mean the world to us, because we want to create a little community here of like-minded souls, and that is one of the biggest reasons that we do this podcast. And hey, if you stick out until the end, we're very grateful, and maybe we see you next week. Who knows? We're not gonna force you, but you are gonna be there next week, or if you want to be there.
Thank you for today, my friend, and for that weird ending. I love you.
Love you too, brother. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.